What's going on, guys? Today we have the release of the newest card, the Gladiator. So for those of you who don't know, the Gladiator is a 3/7 with the on reveal ability to add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of this location. If it has less power, destroy it. So this was a pretty hyped up card when it was first data mined. It was initially shown, I believe, a 3/8, possibly even a 3/9. Same ability, and it was such a unique card that people got pretty excited for it. They already had to reduce its power before release to a 3/7. Still, it's an exciting card. It's not a card like anything else that we've had, except for maybe if you think about like Dr. Octopus or Yondu, similar effects, I guess. So I figure we'll just look at the pros and cons and try to figure out how good the Gladiator is going to be. So first off, 3/7 is a supreme stat line, not just a premium stat line, it's a supreme stat line for a 3-cost card. The only other card with the same stat line is Maximus. Maximus has a downside of the on reveal where your opponent draws 2 more cards when you play him. So how does that compare to Gladiator? I think Gladiator's on reveal, it's kind of dicey to know exactly how often it will be good or bad. Another pro is that it could potentially eliminate opponent's key cards. In a way like this, it would be very much like Yondu, which both kill a card from your opponent's deck. And if it pulls a card that it does not destroy, you could use it to fill board slots. If you can get something to fill that 4th spot in somebody's board, even if it's a big card, you're sort of able to exert your will on that lane. Maybe, you play Shang-Chi along with Gladiator, so if you pull like something with 10 power, you can Shang-Chi it on the final turn and guarantee that lane for yourself. Being able to manipulate your opponent's lanes can be very useful. So now let's look at the cons. It doesn't pull from your opponent's hand. If you played Hearthstone, your first instinct says this sounds like Dirty Rat, where it would pull a card from their hand and any battle cries, any like on reveals from Hearthstone would not trigger. But this pulls it from the deck. So you're playing a card that they might not have ever even drawn, and you're putting it into play. If it sticks, then you're playing a card for them that they never would have even drawn. They wouldn't have had the opportunity to play themselves, and it comes at no cost to them. So that's bad. Number 3, on reveals and ongoings activate before the destroy check. So if you pull cards that have a on reveal effect, say you pull a Dr. Doom, the Dr. Doom dies, but the Doom bots still get sent to the other lanes. So it's not always even just a clear-cut win or loss. Like you can pull an Ironheart, right, and the buff still go off. You can pull a couple of on reveal cards. The White Tiger still sends out the Tiger. So there's a lot of danger in playing this card, right? The 3/7 stat line is good, but it's no Werewolf by Night, right? That can be like a 3/15 without too much trouble. So you kind of have to sort of take the risk. As exciting as it seems to pull a card and battle it with a Gladiator, it is probably more often than not a downside. So I wanted to think through what types of cards you do actually pull, because there's so many cards in Marvel Snap that this card still sort of exists in that like hypothetical space where you don't really know what effect it's going to have in any game. So for example, if you pull somebody's Shang-Chi out of their deck, that's great. You don't have to worry about Shang-Chi anymore. He dies, fizzles out. Any other sort of like late game surprise cards, say Shadow King, similar idea. Any of those cards that are used to swing a lane late, you can just get rid of right away. Next, I thought of a card like Iron Man. It would be any kind of a group of cards that have ongoing effects that add power, but not directly to the card itself. So like Iron Man, Miss Marvel, Claw, all these cards that add power with an ongoing effect, but not directly to the card. So they will still die to Gladiator. Could be very effective. Next up, Hela. Basically, anytime your opponent has like a finisher in the deck, like Hela, maybe like Odin in some cases. But Hela would die and just kind of have their game plan fizzle out. Also, cards like Null. Specifically, I thought of Null. because on turn 3, he generally has not grown that much. Just any of these like big finisher cards, these big 6-drops that don't have that much power built right onto their own card, but impact the game after you've done a lot of setup for it. Similarly, other cards like Venom, these sort of a combo piece cards, you need to play them in the right spot or at the right time, and then Gladiator can just make him come down in an empty lane. He does nothing, just dies, and that really screws up the opponent's game plan. Those are the good pulls, but there's a lot of bad potential here too. I threw Goliath. I don't know if Goliath killing your Gladiator is actually that bad, but like I said, any Doctor Doom, any of these big on-reveal cards where the on-reveal going off still adds a lot to your opponent's board or still makes a big difference in the game. Also, big cards like the Infinite or Giganto, anything that's just really big and really clunky and it's really hard for your opponent to play, you're just doing them a favor. You're getting that big card down on board. You play Gladiator, you see the Infinite come out, and you better hope you have Shang-Chi, or you just retreat. And even if you do have Shang-Chi, you're playing your Shang-Chi to take out a card that they didn't even have to play. So it's just a free. It's like you're sort of countering your own Shang-Chi. America Chavez is in so many decks. I feel like you're going to have a lot of Gladiator pulling America Chavez. She can't even be Shang-Chi anymore because Shang-Chi needs 10 or more power to activate. So anytime you pull America Chavez, you're just doing your opponent a favor, right? You're just plopping down a big power for them for free. Other than that, there's a lot of small cards in the game. I chose Kitty Pryde as a card that if you're drawing Kitty Pryde on turn 4, 5, 6, your opponent would rather not draw them anymore. So you're just helping them out by thinning out their deck. So many cards like this. Maybe they're late game Angela or their Iceman, something like that. They're thinning their deck in a way that does not help you and actually hurts you. And then some cards like Darkhawk, they just have a lot of power. They're not that clunky, but they need some setup to work in the late game. But if you pull Darkhawk on turn 3, he's going to be bigger than Gladiator just by the nature of most of your cards still being in your deck. I don't know, you can see what I mean. There's a lot of bad pulls and a lot of good pulls too. Honestly, as I was making this list up, the more I thought about it, the more I felt better about Gladiator potentially pulling things. It kind of, a lot of the hype has really subdued around this card, and a lot of it has turned negative. But I think it'll actually be pretty good. I think that more often than not, you're going to get at least an average to good result from this. And it's just the kind of card that's fun, right? Sometimes you just want to play a game and maybe roll the dice, right? See if you can pull out that big Gladiator play. So I've really been torn about whether or not I'm going to try to get this guy. It doesn't really fit into my plan. I've been saving my spotlight caches until December, but they kind of mixed up that plan. They took the cards that I wanted in December out of the spotlight caches, and they cleverly paired this card with the Loki, Justina Loki variant that's in the spotlight caches, and I really want that. That's the best Loki. Justina is like my favorite artist in Marvel Snap. She only has 3 or 4 or 5 cards, but they're all absolutely beautiful. So overall, I think just the fact that this card is interesting, it's a unique card in the game, and it seems like sort of a fun card to play, even if the results might be mixed. I'm probably leaning towards getting it. If you haven't stored up a lot of resources like I have, you probably should pass on it. I think it'll be more of a curiosity than like a real good card. You probably have Maximus, right? If you're running this guy, you can just play Maximus and have essentially the same effect. But what do you guys think? Have you thought of anything that I missed? Any combos? Any special ways to play? Do you think he fits in with like a 0 deck? Do you try to put him on Cosmo just to try to negate the on reveal? Anything like that? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and keep snapping.